Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going.
Hello.
Good morning. Welcome to Monday.
Yes, Monday.
Oh, even though this comes out on a Sunday, we record on Monday. Topping and tailing. Yes.
How does that math work? But
I know. Yeah, don't try and get your head around that. Anyway, the way that we start the show, the episode, the podcast is highs and lows for each side of this coin. Are you going to go first this time?
Sure, I can do first. Okay, so highs and lows. We'll start with my high this time, I think. So my high was a lot of fun stuff happened this week. Okay, I had my first, we're going to call it a book talk, because that's what the library called it, was a book talk, which was very nerve-wracking to be part of this event and not ever have had done anything publicly with my book before. So I didn't really know what book talk meant. But it was just a spot for us to do like readings from our books. So there was like 17 authors locally that had signed up to be a part of this. I got to share a little bit about my book. I did not read true excerpt like everyone else kind of did, which is just fine. But I did read from my book for like an intro, because my introduction, I think, really covers like why I have written a book. So it was a really good event. I got some networking done and my first one under my belt. So we are good to go for another one now. It's very exciting. So that is my high for this week. And my low is that there was a lot of melty all around, I think, between, we're recording this after Halloween. So we had a huge Halloween with Declan, and he was hangry, and all he was interested in was just the decorations and did not want any candy. If there were not M&Ms at those houses that had decorations, he'd go up to the front and then like bypass it. And I'm upset now because I'm the one that wants the candy and I can't go to the doors.
Awesome. Yes.
So he's not picking up candy. I'm not getting any to eat at home later. So it was a silly low, but
wow.
Just that everybody's like attitude that night, then with the time change this weekend, I was super melty after doing the guided sticky note time weekend with the My Sexy Business community, like working for those 5 hours and then having the book talk right after. I was like, I knew I was melty and I'm going to be melty. So I left white space on my calendar to just not do anything. And then the rest of the family doesn't understand that still, that like I need space to just come down from all the stuff. And it was very stressful of a situation to go from having guided weekend and then having a half hour to get ready between that and leaving the house with Declan, because he wasn't supposed to be with me at first. Bobby was supposed to take him to a wake with his family and then meet me at the place. All the plans got turned upside down. So it created a very stressful situation. So that's why it's my low, because it was just like all these things piled up into this overwhelming amount of stress right before one of the bigger moments of the week. And then afterwards, kind of like
everything
domino effect. Like,
yeah, we've only just come off the back of our melty moments and self-care conversation, and this is a real life example.
I'm really grateful that I'm not stressed today while we record, but there was a lot of stress around this weekend. So
Yeah.
My highs and lows. Linda, how are you? What are your highs and lows?
Okay. I have a few highs, but the one I think that stands out, probably because it's most recent, is the boys went together to bed together around the same time tonight and actually just chatted like friends and talked together until I said, that's probably enough. And they went in and said, my turn. I'm about to record. Give and take, come on, go to sleep. And so they pretty much did pretty soon after that. So, oh my gosh.
Nice.
I don't know whether it was because I took Alex for a 5K walk tonight or what, but it all did pretty well. The low for me is I have some car trouble at the moment. My engine overheated last week, which was extremely stressful at the time. I basically pulled over on the side of the road and had a little nap just to try and, well, I don't think I actually napped, but I closed my eyes and put on some relaxing music to just try and let the car cool down and wait until I could at least try to crawl home and get it into the mechanic. And so the mechanic has found more problems than I wanted. And it could last 6 weeks, it could last 6 months, it could last another 2 years. So I'm going to need to look at getting a new car, which is very stressful.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Especially finding a car that seats 8 or 9, which is what I need now. So, yeah, it's certainly put the stress meter right up there, which is what we're talking about today, stress and self-care.
Yeah.
And interestingly, when we both came into this podcast, well, at the moment, we've both said, well, we're not actually that stressed today, like some days. Even though I just remembered that I had that call with the mechanic this afternoon, and Jill, you've got your own car troubles and like just had quite a stressful weekend. Like,
yeah, like it was a good weekend, but like these little things kind of like you think about when, and then you're like, oh, I guess it really was a kind of stressful situation over the whole weekend.
Yep. I think we're a good influence on each other because obviously we've just come in and had a quick chat and we're feeling okay.
It's like something about the studio just lets everything outside still. Like we get to leave it out of the studio and not be stressed about them when we come in here.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why this is such good self-care for us.
Yeah, exactly. But let's talk about stress and self-care because stress definitely impacts so many different areas of our lives, and self-care is one of those, and parenting is one of those, and exercise and sleep and diet and digestion and I could keep going with a huge long list. So what is your relationship with stress look like?
Oh,
sorry, that was a surprise question.
It was more like, do you really want to open that can of worms response?
I know. It's more like a can of elephants, I think.
It's like, I want to relate it to like my stress pimple because like I'm blessed with pretty decent skin, and then you could tell when I'm stressed out and all of a sudden something appears, some kind of blemish on my face, and it's like, you are my longtime friend. Like you just always know how to show up when I'm needing you the most, obviously. Pimple just, it's always there for me when I'm stressed out, but it's changed a lot since the understanding of no unnecessary pressure. And we're gonna be pressured in our lives, and there's good pressure, and then there's the unnecessary pressure that we don't need. And practicing that understanding of what's the necessary pressure and what's unnecessary has changed my stress reactions, like the way I harbor stress in my body, probably even too. So like I have my, let's get out of the house before 9:00 on Sunday mornings, so we're at church on time, but we don't leave until 9:20 every single week. Is very stressful and not really like an unnecessary stressor, because I still need to put pressure on everyone to get out of the house on time, but also it's my fault, not theirs. So, what is the real problem there?
Yeah.
But has stress changed for you in one, being more aware of yourself, especially since starting this podcast, because being more aware of my self-care has helped me with the stress pressures too, or two, having, I want to say like having now 4 children. Yeah, because I can't imagine 4 kids cause just the one that I have.
Yeah, the not unnecessary pressure for me has also been a big one. I think acceptance has also been a big part of my stress relationship, I'm going to call it. So accepting that actually I do like a bit of order in the house. I could try to say there's no unnecessary pressure, and which I did for years, especially when my older 2 were little. It would be in a state, let's say. But that actually did add stress if I look back at it honestly.
Yeah.
So, and that's complicated as well, because in many of those times I probably wasn't in a mode of being able to think clearly or think straight or get order into both my thoughts and my life and my house and my blah, blah. So it's been definitely a relationship there with the stress of home, and realising actually it really does help me if I can find something in when I need it, not look around for 5 minutes and spend 5 minutes to get really stressed and yeah. Like money is still a big stress right up there for me.
Yeah.
Like looking at replacing a car now, that's thousands of dollars out of, we don't, well, we don't expect these things to happen. We don't always plan for them. We have a bit of a backup, sure, but that backup buffer is nice to have, and then we have these things that come up and they're very unexpected. So me personally, I don't have any credit cards or debt, to so it wouldn't be a car loan that I would be looking at right now. I would have all of the money for a car. So that's what I've got to now face the stress of, and look at. It is also having a period of time where I didn't have a car when the kids were younger, so we would catch a bus and walk, and that was hours and hours out of my day with 2 young children at the time, 2 and 4 they were. Yeah. And so I know the stress of not having a car, which is motivation to replace the car.
Definitely. Yes.
Yep. So, yeah. Did you have anything to add to that?
I feel all of that, because I have gotten a lot less organized, even in my own home, especially over this summer. Like, we were doing some family planning yesterday, because on Sundays after church we'll do our little bit of time together, Bobby and I, and we'll go over the finances and what we have going on for the week. So I was like, let's get back into doing our chores, because we dropped the ball on that for a couple of months. And we have the ability to wash our couch because our covers come off of the cushions. So I just throw them in the wash. And I haven't done it since before my dad was sick. So I'm like, we need to clean this house a lot. I have 10 garbage bags full of clothes that my sister brought over for me because I've gained weight. And that's stressful that I don't want to go out and buy new clothes, because why can't I just lose the weight again and fit in my clothes instead of trying to, feel comfortable in what I'm actually going to be like for a little while. So she gave me all her clothes and I feel so much better now because there's just no stress and like, what am I doing to feel comfortable? So amazing. I need to get rid of these bags of clothes though, because they're taking over my room.
Yes, like I have a pile of papers on my desk right now, which I'm slowly going through. And I wanted to eliminate a lot of paper from this room by the end of the year, and that's fast approaching. Excuse me.
I feel you with the car too, because like my car just is expensive to maintain, and then therefore, like, how many months? Everyone's always like, well, why does it seem like you're always bringing your car into the shop? I'm like, well, because I can't, one, afford to cover everything that needs to be done in one shot. Two, let's spread it out, because I can't also afford to have my car gone for 3 days to get all the work done. So totally understand all those things. And it really stinks that the stressors that we do have in life put such a big stick in our spoke when it comes to taking care of ourselves, because we're so focused on that feeling of stress, the pressure that we're allowing to build up on ourselves because we're in a stressful situation, that how do we take care of ourselves for that? Because obviously we're going to feel it in our bodies. But also, like, it puts our life to a halt in a way too, because what else are we able to do? Linda, you got to focus on making sure you have the savings to take care of your car now. So your focus is being on, well, where are we, one, cutting back so we could save up a little bit, or two, finding where we can earn a little bit more at this time too. Which puts us not a priority sometimes. And how is that beneficial for our self-care and our health and making sure we're still okay, even though we have all this stress happening around us?
I just want to bring up something that you talked about for a second, in the stress that happens in our bodies and how we feel that stress physically. And I know for me, so if I'm overloaded, stressed, not sleeping very well is another big one. I know that I will, get inflammation, maybe through different joints or something like that sometimes. Or I will feel muggy and fuzzy and like just brain fart type moments. And maybe headaches are another one that comes up. I'm lucky enough they don't come up so much for me, but I know for some of the boys they come up especially. What about for you as far as the stress and body stuff?
My stress pimple is definitely like the one thing that happens. That I'm nursing back to health right now, it feels like. And then I get a lot of like decision fatigue. Like, don't ask me to make a decision. I'm too overwhelmed with like trying to solve a problem in my head, which is the stress that I'm trying to resolve. So decision fatigue, 100%. Like, just I am useless for making a decision. So yeah, and then I tend to eat poorly if I'm stressed. That causes, usually for me, a reaction in the next couple of days and not being able to process those foods correctly. So it's like our bodies take them in all different ways, and then you realize I didn't listen to my body and not eat that cheese. Instead, I ate the cheese because it was going to feel good and make me feel better for a hot second.
Yeah. Another thing that I've been thinking of while we've been having this conversation as well is stress that becomes reactive. So for me, I know that if I'm stressed or overwhelmed or overloaded or thinking about trying to do too many things at once, or every single kid is talking at me at once, or just, I reckon Alex talked for 4 hours nonstop. And by the end of it, I was like, that's probably just, I need to jump on a podcast now with Jill and hear a different voice. I love you to death. I love your curiosity, but that was a lot after a very big day. So when we do get to all of those moments, I know for me, sometimes I can react and snap or that sort of thing. But another way that I do that, and another way that I see stress come out, is boundaries. So if so what I have noticed about myself, and others have noticed too, is that I can put a boundary in place, but as far as sometimes enforcing that boundary when there's all the kids talking at me or everything else happening, or I've got something else that has to be attended to, enforcing that boundary is actually quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I made up boundaries that didn't exist before. And like that, I think, is super reactive, because like I will blow up. I will completely just react in a way that is explosive, and then throw up a wall, a boundary, and be like, nope, never mind. Everybody has to stop talking to me until I'm ready. And I can see the reactions of my husband and Declan get reactive to that, which makes me understand that, this is a stress reaction, because I will get pushback from my husband. Well, you were cooking and we were talking yesterday and you didn't flip out like this. Why are you flipping out about this today? Where he has no idea what's going on inside my head. So a pop-up boundary that's like, this boundary never existed before. Why all of a sudden do I have it thrown in my face? Is like, well, I'm stressed. Like, this is a protective boundary. Please leave me alone, because I can't.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is really interesting, because it must be hard for our kids, especially when we're like, well, I threw that ball inside yesterday and you were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and now you're throwing that ball and you're not, because maybe you've just heard about car troubles, or you're thinking about or you're trying to comfort a 1-year-old who's just got hurt or something. Like, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
And human as well. Humans are quite inconsistent in those ways. It's very common as well. Yeah. So it's been good to say some of that stuff out loud, I think.
It's making me a little bit more aware now. Like, we realize that we do these things after we've done them and someone brings it up to us, but now as we have this conversation, we're recalling it. Like, yeah, this is exactly what I do all the time.
Not proud, not
but, we don't know in the moment until we're like, all right. And then I have the reaction of, every time I put this boundary up, it's because I'm stressed. You should know this by now.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I wonder, you listener, if you are recognizing some of the things that you might be doing, like putting up a boundary or having a reaction when you are stressed out. So just know, like Linda said, we're human. This is going to happen. We're going to have reactions when we're stressed.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And Jill, if you'd like to reach out to us, all of the details are in the show notes. So we'd love to hear from you. And until next week,
We hope you can unstuck your mouth.
Bye.
Bye.
Bam, bam, can we do it again?